Welcome to Founders Future, a podcast powered by Closers.io, where we dive into the journeys of innovative entrepreneurs and explore the road ahead of them and their companies. I'm your host, Olivia Sammons, and in each episode we'll uncover the stories behind impactful ventures, the challenges faced along the way, and the strategies driving their future growth. Today I'm excited to be joined by Marley Majcher, the founder of The Party Goddess, an events strategist, entrepreneur, and a business mentor who has built a brand around turning unforgettable experiences into scalable business growth. She's also the founder of The Profit Goddess, a platform designed to help entrepreneurs monetize visibility, build community, and create revenue streams that feel aligned and exciting. Her work sits at the intersections of events, marketing, personal branding, and sales psychology, helping founders move beyond one-off launches or random visibility into intentional, profit-driven strategies rooted in human connection. Marley, welcome to Founders Future. Thank you so much for joining me today. Such a pleasure to have you here.
It's such a pleasure to be here. I'm excited. This is one of my favorite things, is to talk about entrepreneurship and all the gritty details behind the scenes.
I love it. And we have a serial entrepreneur, so a lot of experience to dive into as well.
Yes.
So with all of my guests, I do like to start at the beginning of their journey. So Marley, if you don't mind taking me back to briefly what it was you was doing before we started up the company. So before we started up The Party Goddess, and then from there, what was the motivation behind it?
So I've got to keep in mind that this is a short interview because it could take the whole time. But net is I really started my first business when I was 4 years old, and I would sell shrinky dinks door to door. And they've kind of come back, but they're those little plastic things you put in the oven and make, and they shrink, and then you make jewelry and stuff out of them. And I would sell them to the neighbors, and that was like I was in heaven. And continuously had little businesses like that. And then I went to Georgetown and got my business degree. But the summer before my junior year, I didn't know what I was going to do. So I went to cooking school in France. And then I came back, and for one of my business classes, I had to do a speech on what I knew more about than anybody else. And I was like, oh my God, that's nothing. Like, I barely got into Georgetown, right? These kids are so smart. And my mom is like, just do it on French cooking. I mean, there's no way they know more about that. And so I ran into my professor, and like on the way to develop my film, because that's how old I am. And the professor was like, and I was like, oh my gosh, I'm in your class and I'm doing my speech on French cooking, and I have an interview with the chef from 1789. Well, 1789 is this very fancy restaurant in Washington, D.C. I did not have that interview. I never thought of having that interview. And of course, she's like, it's my favorite restaurant. Oh my gosh. So I go home in tears thinking now I'm going to be kicked out of Georgetown, where I probably didn't belong in the first place. And my roommate says, don't worry, they have a new chef. Basically, I'll hook it up. And I was like, I just need to see him so I don't I can be truthful. Well, we set up the meeting. I take one look at him, decide I need to marry him. I'm 19 years old. He's 20 years older than I am. I'm thinking the whole time, I've got this interview. How am I going to literally close him and get this interview done? So I knew that he wasn't amazing at speaking Spanish. I thought, well, I speak Spanish, but I'm going to really learn, and convince him that I was this amazing souffle chef and that he should have me back to kind of like tour the kitchen again. And he's like, why? But anyway, he did. And the whole year I worked I got out of class at 2:30, worked 3:30 to 11:30. And guess what? He never asked me out. So it's now the end of my junior year. Now it's before my senior year. I go to France again to go to cooking school. I come back and I plot the whole summer how I'm going to quit and ruin his life. Because by now I'm his like best employee, of course. And so I say, listen, I'm my school schedule, and I'm all dressed up and looking fabulous, of course. And he's like, oh, okay, would you like to have dinner? And I was like, no way. So anyway, the net was that he and I got engaged the month after graduation. And then I got into the restaurant business. So I guess I closed my first big deal really when I was 19. And then we got into the restaurant business, moved back to California, where I'm from, Pasadena. We started the restaurant, started a catering company, took over a banquet operation from there, had a child. He and I ended up splitting. We're best of friends now, but thank God we owned the land where the restaurant was. And so that is still like my baby, but I don't have to run it. So I'm a landlord in that sense. And then went off to start The Party Goddess, because I was like, I'm just getting divorced. I'm at the like lowest point in my life. What's the biggest name I can come up with? And it was The Party Goddess. And then that takes us into the whole next trajectory. But
I love it. So, and it's such a great story. Thank you so much for sharing that. And then kind of really driving on from there. So that was the first inkling of entrepreneurship we had was starting that restaurant, having the business, and then moving
Well, the
on.
first inkling was at 4 years old, where I
But
was
for
like, "Oh,
yeah, I forgot about that
I
one.
like I was like, I just so remember the nickels and dimes in my little
Yeah,
paws, like, oh, this is the greatest feeling ever." But yeah, kind of progressed through there. It never left my blood. Let's put it that way.
awesome. I love it. So we got the sniff early on, and then so let's dive into what today's business look like. Because I know we
Yeah,
have several that kind of pile on top of the party goddess as
yeah,
well.
yeah.
So where is the main focus at the moment? Like what is kind of top of mind for
Well,
you?
the nice thing is that with the party goddess, unfortunately, we have a niche, right? We ended up getting a lot of celebrity clients. That's what really set us apart. And now I've been doing it for I guess 25 years, just as the party goddess. And so we build our own props, do all that kind of stuff. But our focus is to do a few events a year that are huge,
Amazing.
and where we really can control the whole thing. Now, the profit goddess comes in because I ended up writing a business book to solve my own problems. It was after a question my dad would say, he'd be like, I don't care about all these celebrities. I don't even know who you're talking about, but are you making any money? Right. And I realized, oh my gosh, at the end of the day, that's what business is about. And so I knew I couldn't answer a lot of his questions still as an entrepreneur. Like, how much is in your bank account? What's your profit margin? What's your this? What's your that? And I thought, oh, what am I going to do? So I ended up writing this business book after teaching a class really for our industry convention just to get a free pass at the class. And that ended up being the profit goddess because people were like, can't you just help me out? And I was like, I practically failed out of school, but I guess, I did know how to make money at that point, but when it's in your blood, you're always looking for other opportunities. So right
Yeah.
now I feel like I'm back to being the baby at square one. We have this new company called sayyestosheep.com where we've got some intellectual property that we've been working on to actually prevent the spread of wildfires. And randomly that came out of this, trip to the Faroe Islands where I went to see the oldest sheep supposedly in the world and then learned that they weren't using their wool. And this is like a problem around the world. And I was like, wait a second, all these farmers have all this wool. The world is literally on fire. How can I put the two of those things together? So that's kind of what I'm working on now and doing our $2 million seed round. And it's in a
Yeah.
way, it's a learning curve.
Yeah, it's kind of like there's a problem and
Yeah.
then there's Marley here to solve it. What are we going to
Yes.
do with this?
Well, exactly. And what's so ironic, I think, I love how you said that because even yesterday, there's this big story running around, like it's all over the place about this guy right in my town who has this bear under his house, right? And he can't get the bear out of the house. And in California, you can't kill the bear, you can't do anything. So I just was like, F it. I mean, I have time on my hands right now. So I was Googling all these bear strategies and bringing in all this AI and all this stuff. And I was like, this is a problem that I'm just kind of interested in. So I reached out to him and he called me back and we had this like amazing conversation. I was like, hey, if I solve this bear problem for you, will you be on my podcast? And he was kind of like, well, I guess. And it was funny because he'd been talking to all these other media outlets, but he talked to me. And it's a matter of just inserting yourself. You see a problem and
hmm
you jump in and try to solve it. And so I was like, what's the difference? Like, maybe I can solve the wildfire problem. Like, I actually think I can because we know our product works. But it's looking at it through that lens of don't just limit yourself only to like what you're doing now. I mean, I'd get my companies to a certain point where they could, you know, I wasn't the bottleneck so much in them. Now I'm a bottleneck, of course, in our fundraising process, which is a whole other kind of close, but it's fun and it keeps your brain working and active. And I think that's the most important part about being an entrepreneur is being really creative, but being so curious. You have to be,
Yeah,
especially in these days with AI, you've got to be so on top of things.
fully. It's having curiosity of a child, but then having the intelligence to put on top of that as well. And it is just about solving problems. And
Totally.
once you get that itch, once you get that like know-how of how to solve a problem, you
Right.
can apply that to everything else, you know. And then it is, as you say, it's scaling the business. So then I don't become the bottleneck, and we can move on to the next one. What pieces we need in place, and can yeah, we can move on to the next one. And it,
Exactly. But you have to have those, you have to have, A, you have to be able to recognize the issue. B,
yeah,
you have to be able to say, is it scalable? Like, okay, that's nice that there's a problem, but is it scalable? Can I
yeah.
make money? How many people are in that space already? And then actually creating the plan to execute it, because that's where so many people falter is they just start to go like, "Ugh," they drown in this, I have this idea, but now what?
Yeah, and the half of that as well is a lot of people drown in the idea when they're solving a problem that doesn't always need solving. It's obviously urgency and the pain
Correct.
points on top of that, the problem you're looking to solve.
Well, the
Um,
other one quick thing too about that is that most entrepreneurs go about this backwards, right? We build our
yeah,
businesses based on what we love to do, not
yeah,
what needs to be done. And
so true.
that's the key thing.
It is, and it also going with the founder-led thing. They get to a point sometimes to hand off the roles, as you've done
Yep.
several times, and that's the biggest struggle for them. Is handing over that baby, moving on, and realizing you're not the company. It's the product they want.
Right.
It's a service you're delivering, not yourself.
Right.
Separating the two. But like Marley, when it comes to like scaling the businesses
Yeah.
and moving forward, there, what would you say like is the best piece of advice you've ever received, or you can pass on to any listeners who are in that
A
situation?
number one, track your time. You literally, all of us need to track our time. I don't care if you track it on an app. There's millions of them. I don't care if you track it on a piece of paper, an Excel spreadsheet, whatever. But you must track your time, because here's why: we waste so much of it. Money, we can all make more money. We can never get back more time. And that's the
Mm,
biggest mistake I see entrepreneurs make, is we waste our time. And so you've got to track it for a week, and you write down, literally pretend you're a lawyer, like in 10-minute increments. You're like, okay, I did this for this client. I did the, and then after, it doesn't even take barely a day or two, and you see the pattern. Like I can
yeah.
see somebody's timesheet, and I can tell an entrepreneur like what they're struggling with, because it's like, oh, I was networking, I was doing this, but it's like, okay, great, but what was the follow up? What were the next steps? What did you do to like close the loops? What was your sales pipeline? And that's the biggest thing that I talk about in my book, is it's all about time. And then you figure out what's producing for you, your ROI. Becomes not like your return on investment. Your investment is time. So I call it ROT,
Yeah.
like your return on your time.
Yeah, 100%. And it is that time essence of it comes into play a lot with entrepreneurs. And again, it's just being organized, moving on. But
Yep.
then when it comes to like the process of having systemation, so sales and marketing,
Yes.
again, what kind of tactics did you try in the past that really helped you kind of accelerate? Or was there several having obviously different
Sure.
businesses and different ideas out there as
Well,
well?
that's a great question. There were several, but there are universal frameworks, right? And there are
Yeah.
lots of them, but if you study business and kind of dig into it, a lot of them are very similar. And they boil
Hmm.
down to me, what the simplest way to do it is KPIs, key performance metrics. And I don't care if you're a brand new entrepreneur or an entrepreneur for 50 years. It boils down to tracking what matters, 3 to 5 things, right? So if I'm the entrepreneur and I'm in charge of like, kind of sales and marketing, well, what's my profit margin? How many leads how many like warm leads am I reaching out to proactively? How many am I closing? And then we don't what other components am I trying to drive? But
Yeah.
it's really boiling down to like those 3 to 5 things. But I can't emphasize enough. So, it's analyzing the problem. Like, where's the problem in the sales pipeline? Are you not getting enough leads? Are you getting plenty of leads, but then you're getting stuck in creating the proposals? We've had that issue so many times where we were flooded with leads, and what we had to do was, okay, we're flooded with leads, we can't get the proposals out, we weren't sifting them out properly. So what we had to do was come up with a more of a minimum and more of a screening process, so that those leads wouldn't even get to the point of us taking our time to do the proposals.
Yeah. I love it. And it is as you having that organization and structure
Totally.
behind you is so important.
It's got to be
Um,
1, 2, 3, 4,
yeah.
5, kind of, and then repeat. And you've got to just have those key things in front of you at all times.
Yeah, amazing. And then when it comes to obviously scaling the team
Yeah.
with the business as well, again, a great aspect for founders. When you become the bottleneck, how do you save more time? We're going to grow the team. We're going to move on.
Yeah.
Again, any pointers you've given in your experience that have helped you kind of build a team that you trust and align with your mission as well.
Sure. Well, our hardest thing was the whole interview thing, and I think a lot of entrepreneurs struggle with that, right? Because at certain points when you're new, you hire your friend, or you hire, like, you just need warm bodies sometimes, right? Or you're like, I need a bookkeeper. Oh, so and so, I know they were good with cooking. It's you can't do that. And one of the biggest things, if I can say this, resources that massively helped us was this thing called Test Gorilla, where it marries AI with these testing things. And what we did was, because I would hire these people, classic entrepreneurial thing, think they were great, believe what they said.
Yeah.
Everybody, can lie on your resume, all these things. But what we started doing was we started putting these very basic automated tests in place. Well, A, that cut down the number of people who were applying, because people who were just tossing out resumes didn't do it. B, you could see their face as they were taking these little baby tests, and you could see what was their background like, how did it show up, like were they turning the camera off so that they could like cheat and go to Chat GPT. That helped us scale so much because you get immediate results. You get
Amazing.
this person's in the 32 percentile versus the 90 percentile. And sometimes there are people that we've interviewed and hired that I'm like, I wouldn't have given a second look at, but their numbers come in so high or they come in so low. And I was like, wow, I would have made another massively bad hire.
Yeah, I love it. So implementing AI in all aspects of that is really
100%, but finding something that tests and screens before, and not just like, oh, I gave them the disc test, but like you can actually input things about your company to see if it's a match. Like people will say, oh yeah, no problem. I have no problem being in the office 5 days a week. But then when they do this match, there are these questions that get extracted, which are like the person is telling you maybe they think they are not going to be fine in a cubicle 5 days a week. And that's what's slow. That's a huge bottleneck for entrepreneurs because the hiring process is expensive. It takes a lot of time. We start them up and then guess what? It takes us a long time to fire them.
Yeah. No, it's true. And then even longer to replace them because you have to go through the whole step again.
Oh, and not to mention, and if you're an entrepreneur, you're probably a small team and you're beating yourself up the whole way. You're like, oh my gosh, how did I do this again?
Fully. And Marley, thank you so much for joining me today and for sharing your incredible journey and insight with us. Where can our listeners reach out best to work with you, connect with you, and just follow along?
We have a great YouTube channel, The Profit Goddess, or I would love it if you would listen to our podcast. Every Day is a Train Wreck. And we do all kinds of event planning stuff, real life stuff, and we just generally have a good time. Or of course on Instagram at The Party Goddess.
Awesome. I love it. And thank you again for joining us. And to our listeners, if you enjoyed this episode, please be sure to go and check out The Party Goddess on Instagram. And do not forget to subscribe to Founders Future via wherever you listen to your favourite podcasts. And if you are a business owner, specifically a coach, consultant, or agency owner, and you're really looking to scale your business and you want to enhance your sales and marketing efforts, visit closers.io to hop on a call with one of our team and discover how we went from $0 to $30 million per year in less than 3 years. But until then, keep on climbing and we will see you on the next one.